Hello everybody, Alex Wiseman back again. Welcome to day 4 of Organizational Leadership and Change Management. We are cruising along with Bowman and Deal's 4 frames, and we're going to be tackling the political and symbolic frames today. So get ready, it's going to be a wild ride. A couple things we're going to do is understand the key characteristics and patterns of the political and symbolic frames. Again, it's that basic level of Bloom's taxonomy. Just want you to understand and know. Then we're going to try to articulate a real-world example of how the political and symbolic frames can be used to analyze organizational situations or events and appropriately plan policy or action. So taking that basic level information and learning how to apply it, then learning how to evaluate it, then learning how to synthesize it, and learning how to evaluate it. And we're going to be doing all those things with it in some way. And then finally, we're going to take a little extra step since this is our midway point, and you're going to articulate some key characteristics of your own theory of action. So you've already articulated or hopefully been thinking about your intuitive theory of action, but I'm just going to jump all the way down here to the application activities. You'll see we're moving on to needs assessment for application activities, but in the reading itself, we're talking about, for Module 4.3, developing your theory of action. No longer just intuitive, but also more strongly your theory of action. What does that look like? How do you see action happening? How do you understand it in terms of the context and the community in which it's occurring, or the organization itself? This is a good place for us to be right at the end of our look at the 4 frames of Bowman and Deal's framework, because we've now covered the structural, the human resource, the political, and the symbolic frames, and all the different permutations of how those 4 frames can interact with one another. We can now start to think more carefully about what our own theory of action is, our own theory of change. How do we understand not only what's going on in a particular situation that we're addressing in our own school or our own community, but also how do we understand what meaningful change looks like and how to approach it based on these different ways of understanding it. That's our goal anyway. So the political frame, you're going to read again 3 chapters about the political frame, some that will be more descriptive, some more interpretive, some more change-oriented, some more specific to individuals within it, and think about that. And then you're going to finish out that section by looking at teacher leadership in particular. So we talk about leadership in a lot of different ways. Teacher leadership is one of those ways that we can talk about it. It's not necessarily leadership in the same way that leadership for a school principal or a district superintendent or a government official or a policymaker or somebody else might be. It is really quite frankly, I think a lot of people would argue the most important kind of leadership that happens in a school, because this is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. Teachers interact in classrooms with students and with each other, which is where, and I'm using air quotes here even though you can't see me, the real education happens. So we'll be looking at a 4-minute video on teacher leadership and what that looks like and what some of the input from teacher leaders is. Then we'll be thinking about the symbolic frame, and this is probably one of the more esoteric frames, and for that reason, apparently it's my favorite. I really enjoy the symbolic frame and thinking about what it means, and all of the, quite frankly, I enjoy all of the disconnect, how you can have a symbol that means something, but in the real world, something else is happening. So we're going to look at organizational symbols and how culture is a part of organizations. We'll look at the organization as theater, in other words, the ways that it presents itself in a way that might not reflect what's actually happening, and how do we see through the fog, or how do we read between the lines in order to get past the symbols and sort of the cultural markers to really understand the motivations and the activities and the other things that are happening as part of that. We're also going to read we're going to watch a very short 1-minute video on leadership and management. There's, you probably have seen in your readings and in some of the other videos that leadership and management and administration to some degree are all used in the same sort of community of ideas. Sometimes they're used in interchangeable ways and sometimes not. And so this is going to be talking about some of the differences, which I think is really relevant to the symbolic frame and how we use symbols and other sorts of markers in organizations to do things. Then finally, of course, developing your theory of action. We already talked about this a little bit. The chapters in Rick Mintrop's book are a little shorter than you'll find in Bowman and Deal. So even though there are 4 chapters to read here, the overall reading for this section is much smaller than for the previous 2. And then I want you to watch this, 3, maybe a little more than 3-minute video from Fulton County Schools in Georgia that explains their theory of action. And you're really looking for, are they hitting all the characteristics that Mintrop describes in his book? How do you understand what they are saying, what they're articulating, or what did they do right versus what did they do wrong? I mean, there are many ways that we can look at this, but I think you'll find it interesting to see what they've done. This is, of course, their public face as well. So this is going to have a lot of symbolism attached to it. The symbolic frame will be very prevalent in this video as well. So I'm excited about what we're going to be doing today. Remember, for your application activities before you come to class, please complete the online quiz that'll be linked here. When you look at this page, it'll be linked here. I'd like for you to have a written draft of your needs assessment subsection. Use Mintrop's Chapter 4 as inspiration. It will have some examples for you. I want you to mimic those as much as you can to give us something unique that you're creating, but using the style and structure that are shown in Mintrop. And then getting ready for class, we're going to go back to using a more traditional case study, but this time we're using one that is addressing, wait till it pulls up here, human resources specifically in the school district of Philadelphia. So we're hitting close to Philadelphia with this, and we're looking at human resources reinvention. So we're looking at change related to human resources within a school district. I think you will find it really interesting, and again, it will take some preparation. It's not for the faint of heart. 32 pages of pretty heavy content, but you can do it, and I'm excited about it. And then finally, as always, if you have any questions, please bring them to class. Ask them live. I would be more than happy to talk to you about them there. I want you to ask questions in class because I think it benefits the whole class. They get to see what kinds of questions are being asked and what the answers are, which, quite frankly, everyone probably has similar questions and would like those answers as well. So everybody helps everybody. If you have any comments, and I hope you do, please make them and share your reflections about today's objectives, learning, application activities, etc. in the Leave a Reply section right down here. It's really easy to do, and it's super appreciated when you do it. All right, that is our day 4. I'm excited for you guys to be through with this day, and I can't wait to see you in class.